Hello and welcome to the 29th video in the Project Sovereign series. In this video I'll begin work on the dorsal neck section. I've got some useful techniques to cover, so let's get started. Welcome back. I've gotten a bit more work done since the last video, most notably the final phaser strip on the ship. So if you'd like to see how I did that, there's a previous video that you can go watch. It's got a very in-depth look at how I did this, not necessarily the best way, but that's how I got it done. I also created this seam around the dorsal back neck section. So I'm starting to get to work on that. It's a very complicated area, and you can see these strange little shapes that I've made, and this has to do with the beginning of the last video, how I created the blank for this armor plating. Now, I kept it as this because I've got a little technique. I'm thinking ahead as to what the texturing of this is going to be like, and it's going to be really difficult. So I want to make this as easy as possible, as quickly as I can. So let me show you on the physical model. Here's the scene that I was speaking of before. And you'll see I'm creating these panels here, and you'll notice I've got this curious sort of white outline, and I want to get this done on the model and not as a texture because it's a raised area. It's going to be really difficult to map it. So I figured the easiest way would be for me to just carve in the detail as it stands right here. So I kept this just as shapes rather than 3D meshes. And let me show you the process that I'm going to do. So let me isolate this and view it from the top. So like I did before, I'm going to Boolean out these shapes. So compound shapes, shape Boolean. Add operands, and I want to be sure I'm subtracting, and just boom, 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 boom. There we go. And I will end isolate. So that is how it's going to finally cut into the back of the ship. But instead of just doing the shape, like I showed before, I want to get these white outlines done, which is great because we just so happen to have an outline tool. So let me convert this into an editable spline. Select all of the splines, and I'm just going to give it an outline value. I usually just dial this in. That looks good. About -2, somewhere around that. That looks fine. And then I'm going to select all of these. And give them another outline just like that. Okay, so you'll see we've got everything we need now. We can carve it right into the ship shape and just use a color material, and I can get this quickly textured right away without even having to bother unwrapping this part of the ship, which is really nice. Okay. So I'm going to have to do this as 3 separate objects. So I'm going to detach these. Detach shape 1, that's fine. Don't need to label them. And then I will detach these. Shape 2 is fine. Great. Now a simple extrusion. And that's how it's going to look going into the ship. I might lower the interpolation. Probably 16. Doesn't need to be crazy defined. That looks good. I could just copy this, move it down, get the next object, paste. Here we go yet again, move it down, and paste. So there we are. So I'm just going to Boolean imprint these, just like I've done for each one of the armor plates. but I get to do it 3 times and it's going to create the outline, which I will show you next. That operation is finished, and as you can see, the shapes along with those outlines have been carved into the mesh, just as planned. So the next step is going to be simply selecting each of these and extruding them just all as big panels. So I'm just going to select all of these and extrude them up just as if they were normal armor plating panels as I've been doing before. Alright, so that's all of those polygon faces selected. Now it's just the usual extrusion. And I'll go higher and do my look around test. Just to see, that looks okay to me. 0.07. And let me have another look at my model here. And that does indeed look to be the correct height. It's not quite as high as these down here, it appears. So I'm going to stick with the old extruding that I've been doing, which is good because they'll be consistent with the rest of the top of the saucer section at least. So that'll be fine. So that's that done. And what I can do now is apply my generic gray material. Now, you might be wondering why I'm just applying the same material, even though there's different colors, to all these parts of the ship. And the answer is because I want to be able to get back to this later, and I'll be able to very easily select these polygons by selecting the material ID. So sort of thinking ahead there. And all I need to do now is just select these, put on the generic model material, and this section will be done. Now with all of these polygons selected, it's time for the big moment. And applying my generic model material. And there you have it. Put the symmetry back on. And that looks like that part is complete. So making progress on the back of this neck. I've completed this, so I just want to show you that outline technique. I think is really useful because now I don't need to worry about making this part of the texture for the ship. So I'll be using the same technique for this area and this area here as well. So by the next time you see me, all of this area will be complete. Maybe even the windows too if I get to it. If not, I'll get to it certainly soon enough. This part's going to be a lot of fun to do. So really getting close to being finished with the secondary hull. Of course, I still have to do underneath the fantail here, the scoop. There's a lot of detail down there. Then the pylons and then the nacelles. So we're getting there. Making progress, that's what it's all about, just moving forward slowly but surely. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you soon.